Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brendan Lee with theBrendanLee.com. In this video, I have a question from a student who is considering something. I'll read first, and we'll get into it. Hey, Brendan, I have work for you, if you find helpful, and for others as well, and questions for the YouTube/forum. Hey, thanks for writing in. I appreciate it. I've grasped the source of my social insecurity. I experience others as physical/objective, but not myself. And I feel ashamed of that. When I look at another in the eyes, outside of a contemplative setting in a social interaction, I can see that the interaction is unreal and I'm afraid they'll see it. My default is to become myself as it makes me feel grounded in sensations, safe and secure, but then I get confused with the story. How do you go about social interaction without becoming a thing who speaks to another? Also, when I drop social, then I lose touch with what the other is saying. All right, cool. Thanks for writing. I think there are a lot of things going on there, and likely a lot of assumptions. I'm sensing/seeing and grasping a lot of assumptions. So, I have grasped the source of my social insecurity. Now, I would invite you to consider that if you grasp the source, I'm in my shack house/office right now because we just got apprentices in, and I do not want to film in the building where they are. So I'm filming here. They're working hard. Well, right now they're working on going to sleep. But they're working hard. Well, maybe they're learning what hard work is. Okay, anyway. So now, you've grasped the source of your social insecurity. Now, if you've really grasped the actual source, I would postulate that you could then turn it on and off. All right, so maybe there is more going on about social insecurity than meets the eye. Now, and maybe you're starting to grasp some of that or more of that on a deeper level, which is making sense. So, just taking the first part, I've grasped the source of my social insecurity. I experience others as physical/objective, but not myself, and I feel ashamed of that. Now, maybe you get into some core crap about you, and consider that feeling ashamed of the stuff is not the stuff itself. That is like a reaction to the stuff that you have going on. Being ashamed of only gets to exist in relationship to that which you are ashamed of. So then my question to you would be, like, what are you, or what do you really think you are such that you need to be shamed about? You know, and then we get back more into bottom line and contemplation, what we call bottom line contemplation. If you're new to the channel and or new to this kind of work and considering for yourself, please watch my previous video on bottom line contemplation. It'll help clarify what I mean when I say, but basically it's the core of what you think you need to be up to. You know, for some reason you think you need to be ashamed of something. Now, what is the thing that you are ashamed of? Like, what is the thing that you think you are that you're saying, shame needs to occur, because shame is an activity that you recognize as a feeling that you have. Do you understand? The shame is relating to something in your experience somewhere, something that you are likely not recognizing right now. You know, like you're not aware of it. So then my question is, what are you ashamed of? Or what do you think you are such that the shame can even exist? You see, it's kind of like a moving vehicle doesn't exist without an engine. You can't have one without the other, kind of thing. You can't have shame without the subject of the shame. And the subject of the shame is not the same as the feeling of the shame. So then I want to invite you to consider more deeply what that might be. And you might find something. For starters, thank you. I can see that the interaction is unreal and I'm afraid they'll see it. So when I look at another in the eyes outside of a contemplative setting in a social interaction, I can see the interaction is unreal and I'm afraid they'll see it. Now, I can relate to some aspect where if I show up fully, or if somebody sees me for some reason, they will see something undesirable over here. And then fear about being seen. And what tends to fill the experience is like the top end of the spectrum again. Like the fear fills the experience. Oh my God, I'm afraid they'll see me. But then what is the fear about? The fear is about something that I think I am, that I'm afraid to reveal. But what is the thing? We haven't clarified what the thing is. All that seems clear is I'm afraid and don't interact is the thing. But what's underneath the fear? And again, as with the shame, the fear is relating to something that is not itself fear. The fear is like the motivator, the drive to do something about it. It's far down the line in terms of, it's like a reaction or manipulation. What I mean by manipulation in this case is like trying to get a job done. It tells me what to do. If I'm afraid, what do? Shut down, run away, close off. Good. Safety. However, what is the fear about? What's underneath it, inside it, as if, what do you really think you are such that you can be afraid? Again, like toilet paper is afraid of water because water means dissolution. But if I'm a diamond rock or something, water, no problem. Okay, good. I'm a diamond. I'm solid. You see? So now one thing that you can consider and I've looked at recently is, if I go about pleasing people, there are consequences to being a nice guy. Some of those consequences mean that I must maneuver in such a way that I am always pleasurable to other people, likable, which means I don't get to be solid. As if existentially solid and real, because I'm constantly changing to fit what I think is so in the other people. And what I think needs to be the case, like how people need to feel when they're around me. That's a big assumption. We usually think people need to feel a certain way when we're around them. They need to feel a certain way, which is to say, I have to cater to their feelings. And perhaps underneath that is, I don't trust myself to do the right thing. Or I don't think that I'm good enough to show up a certain way. Like it's just, I am not good and confident in my own self such that I can handle myself. So then I'm like, basically, if I'm a people pleaser, I flit about and I'm very sensitive to other people's needs and feelings, but I don't get to show up as anything that has anything solid, because I haven't quite figured this one out or grasped this fully, I don't think, come to a very huge understanding, at least to my standard. But existentially, something that has no substance is a people pleaser. People pleasers don't have substance. Why? Because they can't. Because you can't have anybody run into anything in you, and conflict is a problem. So there's a huge avoidance of conflict, say. And because I'm avoidant of conflict means I am the kind of person that avoids conflict at all costs, which means I cannot be conflictable, which means like I can't be solid. Ergo, there's nothing solid because nobody's going to run into anything. And there's consequences to not being solid, which might be revealed in your question to some degree, is they can see that the interaction is unreal, and I'm afraid they'll see it. I can see that the interaction is unreal. See, it has no substance. Like, how do we determine what's real? The most real things that we determine in our experience are objects, subjective stuff. That's the most real. And if you have a gripe about that, and you're like, oh no, nothing's real, blah, 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 I've heard some spiritual stuff. But imagine, if you have that going on and I hit you with a stick, what's going to take precedence? The stick. Or if I pull a gun. It's possible. You go, oh fuck, that's real. I might be saying blah, 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 and having feelings and emotions and thoughts and spiritual fantasies, but when the crap hits the fan, if I'm going to pull a trigger, point it at you and pull a trigger, that's important. Why? Because objects reign king, and sometimes people don't acknowledge that. But check it out. Next time you're about to get in a car crash, notice what happens. You can probably take it seriously. Man, we take those things most seriously. So the same with our minds are framed off of objects. The way we think is in objective terms, and if we are social butterflies or something, and I'm not saying that you are, I'm just saying some things that I think might help you with your understanding. We become that which is of no substance, which is to say, there's nothing solid there anymore. And that can become a part of our person. And then so we live as if we aren't solid. And then that might not feel good because there isn't much power there in that lack of solidity, perhaps. So then I might show up as weak to myself. Maybe not to other people because I can please them or fool them or have them look at something that I'm like, oh yeah, see how powerful I am. But in the bottom of my soul, I know I don't have much substance, and it hurts, perhaps. Yeah. So you can take a look in there, and then see if there's anything. And right, and then you go like, my default is to become myself as it makes me feel grounded in sensations, safe and secure. There you go. You go to you. But then I get confused with the story. So then you get confused. And then how do you go about social interaction without becoming a thing who speaks to another? So the last part of your question here, how do you go about it without becoming a thing that speaks to another? Well, in this case, it may be useful for you to grasp what you are. Because what I hear in your question brings to mind what we call the problem of identification, which is to say, like, what you really think you are, perhaps, is a thing. And also I'm hearing that you don't want to be a thing that's interacting with another thing somehow, or like you think that's maybe incorrect or a wrong thing to do. Maybe. See, I'm just reading into what you're saying here. How do you go about social interaction without becoming a thing who speaks to another? Well, consider that in order for a social interaction to occur, how are you going to have that occur if you don't have one thing interacting with another? So then you say, how do you go about social interaction without becoming a thing who speaks to another? Who said that you needed to not be a thing that speaks to another? Or that becoming a thing that speaks to another is somehow bad or wrong? Or does that make sense? Maybe in order for a social interaction to occur, you have to be something. See, look. Here I go. What's the problem? What's the problem? That's what I want to ask you. Hey, what's the problem with that? Why does it matter? You know? So I don't know exactly what you're asking with your last question there. But I'm hoping that in my communications I've helped break some things up for you regarding your questions. And also considering perhaps some of the deeper stuff about some of your fears and or anxiety. I don't know if you use the word anxiety. Social insecurity. See? Insecure. And consider, how does security get to exist? Because there are what we call existential consequences to you holding yourself a certain way. Again, like if you hold yourself as a social butterfly with no substance, guess who doesn't have substance now? And you'll notice that people who are secure in themselves are secure because they are something that is secure. Whatever that is. Maybe they're built like a rock in there. Some people are not built like rocks. You see? But if it's solid, it's solid. And they will feel solid about themselves. Why? Because they are existing as a solid thing. Now, that doesn't say what their nature is. I haven't said that. Like, what's their absolute true nature? Who knows? But in terms of, I don't really want to use this word, but what they manifest as, they can manifest as one thing or another thing, as if something, because in order for them to be something, they've got to be something. And then they will live their life as that. And there's consequences to living one way, and there's consequences to living another way. And so if you start to discover what those consequences are, then perhaps you can make a change and or discover how to create security. And I would recommend that you discover what's so for yourself, such that you are insecure in the first place, like way, way, way down, way deeper than you've ever gone before, in a sense. Because you might realize that the thing that you think you are isn't, in fact, what you think it is. Like, you aren't what you think you are. You aren't even what you feel you are. You see? And then you may discover, oh, like I was talking to the apprentices a little bit, and we were talking about change, and people, what I say, yeah, people think, oh, transformation. They talk about, oh, okay, I can get enlightened, I can transform, I'll be transformed, it'll be so easy, and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, no, I have taken a good look at some stuff that's going on, and you think, oh, I'll just transform myself. No, I was telling, I made this image up, or metaphor, or whatever, with the apprentices. Is like, no, what you think you are is like a fucking, trying to transform you is like going to fight a gorilla. Go fight a gorilla that's like 10 times the size of a gorilla, 10 times as strong as a normal gorilla, and 10 times as aggressive. You go fight that. That's like you fighting you see? The one that you think you are. A gorilla will rip you apart. Why? Because it's powerful stuff. In the Zen ox herding pictures, that, and as Peter would say, it's like they call it a bull for a reason. That's yourself. It's a monster. In terms of power. Everything good also comes from yourself too, so it's good, bad, but the strength with which it appears is massive. So then you're like, well, I want to transform. And so I was telling the apprentices, okay, well, first thing to do is accept your gorilla-ness. Love yourself exactly the way you are. Accept yourself exactly the way you are, so then you can take a good look at what's actually there. And it may turn out. I say, like, you can't change you. Like, you can't war with you. You're not going to win. There's no way you can do that. Yourself. You can't change yourself. But you can. Like, you. Perhaps really you. This is getting weird now, I know. So then, anyway, just disregard what I said. Imagine the gorilla, right? Maybe it turns out that somehow, like, you think the gorilla is what you really are. Maybe, just maybe, the gorilla is actually something you're doing. But you have to discover if that's true. And then perhaps you could work to have the gorilla turn into a butterfly. Or a puff of air. Or a fancy water drop. See? But until you grasp what's going on, it's going to be like me versus the gorilla. And then nobody wins that. Okay? So there you go. That's some stuff from the old shack in the back. Out here, I hope that's helped you. Thanks for writing in. Feel free to write some more. If you want to get serious, check the links in the description. If you want to get a little serious, hey, free course. I've got a paid course. You can hire me to be an online coach. But if you want to do some work that's really meaningful and will move you, come here and do a workshop, because that does the job in a certain way. Now, if you want to get super serious, hey, be an apprentice. But that's way off the charts serious. We got guys here. They're about to stay here for a long-ass period of time and do a lot of hard work. Okay. So that's also a possibility. But please check the links in the description. I'm Brendan Lee with thebrendanlee.com, in support of consciousness and skill worldwide, which is founded by Peter Ralston. Till next time, keep up the good work. Last thing, if you want to join a team, I'm looking for people who want to spread this work. Contact me, email me, let me know if that's something you want to do, and I'll get in touch. You know how to do it. All right. Much love. Take care. Till next time.